right?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk hypotheticals.
You know what happens when you get all hypothetical, man?
The episode gets 2 hours long.
Exactly, right? All right, so we're talking about basically the dream camera that we would want, and we have audience here as well too. First off, thank you so much for participating. We're looking more at the Zoom stuff. We will try to look every now and again into the Facebook. But yeah, we're going to talk about some of our favorite features of various camera systems and what we would combine to make our perfect camera system. Now, first off, Paul and I have some like varying thoughts on things. I am very much a rangefinder guy. Paul is very much an SLR style guy. So that's a big thing. And you'll see that as we talk about all this. But Paul, why don't we get into it?
Let's.
Yeah. So you want to tackle this like brand by brand?
We can. Yeah. So I guess let's start with let's start from the outside in, right? So
Okay.
let's talk ergo.
Okay.
Now, before we jump into this, let's preface by saying ergonomics is very much something that's personal to all of us. What I may find perfect for my hands and my use cases can be completely different for what you may find to be perfect for you. We're all built differently and we all shoot differently. So this is what we feel for what we do is perfect for us. So I'm sure everyone is going to have their own suggestions, and we would love to hear about it in the comments. So feel free to drop that into the comment box, and we'll take a look at that after the second's over.
All right. So ergonomics. Personally, I'm looking at my notes right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am more of a Fujifilm and Leica guy.
Oh, I knew that before you even sent that over.
I mean, like, I brought him a Mia 6, man. Come on. To me, a rangefinder just feels so much better. You know, it feels a lot more natural for me to do this than to do this. This feels a little weird. This feels so much better. I also just think that rangefinders can be overall smaller than SLR style camera bodies. One of our readers is saying, or viewers at the moment, is saying he loves Canon's ergonomics. I agree with you on that. Canon's ergonomics are pretty great. But if I had to sit there and look at an SLR style camera like mirrorless ergonomics, I think I'd hand it to Nikon.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go with. Especially now, right? Since the entire industry is moving towards mirrorless predominantly. There really is no reason why a camera has to look like an SLR anymore. You know, you don't have a pentaprism anymore that you have to deal with. That's kind of where this little bump used to be. That's where the pentaprism used to be on SLRs. So that's why you see sometimes in the same company you'll see both styles. Sony, for example, their A7 and A9 bodies look like SLRs, whereas their 6000 series, their crop sensor bodies, they're rangefinder styles. To me, I personally, since I got a big one of these, it would certainly be helpful if the viewfinder was more towards where you would traditionally find them for rangefinder, because that way my nose isn't like pushing up against the screen.
But then why don't you like rangefinders then? That's what I'm trying to understand.
I don't not like rangefinders. I've never said that I don't like rangefinders. I think you just assumed I didn't because I shoot with SLRs all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But for what I do, it's just that I happen to own cameras that are SLRs. You know, it's not like I can't do the same work with rangefinders I have in the past.
So when you shoot, because of the spatial problem that you have, do you like tilt your face a little bit?
No, I just, if I can, I'll disable the touchscreen, or some camera systems let me only use the right side of the touchscreen, so I'll do that. That way, you know. And that's one of the things that I really applaud Nikon for with their Z bodies. The eye relief is one of the best that I've seen in modern camera systems, where my nose actually is not touching the screen because there is so much eye relief coming from the back where the EVF is. So that's one thing that I will commend them for. The Z6 and the Z7. When I picked it up, also I love the grip on there. So between the grip and the eye relief on the EVF, those are two things I wish all camera manufacturers would have. Sony since addressed some of that with redesigning the grip on their A7 and A9 series cameras. That's good. Canon's has been pretty nice too with the EOS R. One thing I don't care for is that touch bar. Like oof.
The magic touch bar, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, but like you hyper focus on that thing. Otherwise, I mean, like obviously everyone wants a joystick.
It's not even that. It's the way that I shoot. I shoot a manual a lot. So, you know, like with any other camera system, I just assign the ISO to a physical dial and I could change my settings on the fly. With that, I have to unlock, swipe, and then lock it back. Or, you know, if I don't unlock it, I'll accidentally activate it. And then it's kind of similar to back in the day when the camera would accidentally change exposure because I hit the exposure compensation dial by accident because they weren't lockable.
That's in that case when, I mean, for me with Canon, and I saw that Andrew commented, I'll get back to that in a second. With Canon, I'll put the aperture around the lens, I'll put the shutter speed in the front, and then the ISO at the back. But, like, the ISO won't change unless I'm metering, which I really like.
Yeah, again, you know, it's the way that we shoot, right? So that's a personal thing. And another thing, speaking of, like, ergonomics, well, technically, it's not really ergo anymore, but it's still on the outside. I think every company should put a top screen on the cameras.
A top LCD, like what Nikon.
Yeah, EOS R has it. The Z6 and Z7 has it. Panasonic has it. Panasonic's even backlights them, and they backlight their buttons too, so that's also good. Well, all the buttons can be lit up, so if you're shooting in the dark, you know you don't have to like hit the wrong button. You hit a little button, and every button lights up, so you can see what you're actually pressing.
Leica has it as well too with the S series. I wonder why Sony never did it.
I'm not
Probably
sure.
a size thing.
No, well, no, you would have to, because what you'd have to do is you have to change all of the buttons and leave enough room so that you could, because all those systems is, I doubt they're individually backlighting each button. It's just, there's probably a, whatchamacallit, a optical fiber. So you shine light and each optical fiber lights each of the buttons. That's really all that is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of ergonomics, one thing that I cannot stand also stems from Nikon. The entire industry mounts their lenses one way, and Nikon goes the opposite way. As someone like you and I, we test cameras all the time. We switch systems every time. Every time we pick up a Nikon, there's always that moment of, oops, I can't mount the lens this way. I got to go backwards.
Yup.
This is a very unique problem that only applies to people like Chris and I. Granted, but
no. Every other reviewer literally.
No, like people like us, people that review cameras for a living.
Yeah.
Most people aren't switching systems like 2, 3, 4 times a week. So, you know, I will give you that, but I just don't understand why Nikon has to mount their lenses backwards.
I know. It's always been the weirdest thing. You know what? Like, when you're packing your lenses away, it's worse, too, because you have to put the cap on, and then suddenly it's I don't turn it that way.
Yep. So I've loosened caps by accident before doing that.
Yeah.
And then, like, the cap goes flying. I'm like, oh, shoot.
Especially when it goes flying down, like, a stairwell.
No comment.
Exactly. Andrew was saying his current cameras are the Olympus Pen F with M43 primes and the Sony RX1R Mark II. That is a man that also likes rangefinder cameras, and yes, I absolutely agree with you. I love those as well too. You know, I really wish that they come out with another RX1R.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised that we haven't seen another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised they put the A7R4 sensor in there.
You know, maybe they may come out with an RX1S. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be cool. Yeah, that'd be good, great for journalists, concert shooters.
Great for a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from ergonomics. You want to talk about build quality or?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
Uh, Sony hasn't even
done a firmware
Oh, yeah.
update ever, but I love the camera. Yeah, no, it's a great camera.
Yeah.
Let me, Paul, in terms of build quality, what's yours?
Well, it's got to be weather sealed.
Mm-hmm.
For professional working photographers, the camera has to be weather sealed. So too has the lenses, obviously. What a weather sealed camera isn't going to do much good if you mount non-sealed lenses onto it, because you've got a gaping hole in the front.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that, and then I would say I do prefer cameras that are made out of alloys, just because they are sturdier and it also gives me a better sense of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
The grip, rubberized, texturized. What else can I say with build quality?
Well, while you're doing that, let me
What about what do you think? Like, what are your requirements?
So weather sealing is an absolute, and I'm going to show you guys a couple images of basically torture tests that we do to some of these cameras. So I'm going to go into Zoom. I'm going to share a screen. And I'm going to share this screen first. Paul, do you see that Olympus camera? Okay. This camera shows you just how weather sealed and durable it is. And when we talk about weather sealing, we're not just talking about, abusing your cameras and your lenses like this. We're talking about if your cameras can take this kind of abuse, then it means that at the mount, it will continue to work. What do I mean by that? So if your camera and your lens aren't weather sealed, little pieces of debris are going to keep getting into there, and it's going to affect the autofocus capabilities and all that stuff. But when that mount is sealed and very well sealed, then you have less of a problem over time with the performance degrading. Obviously, that's different than like battery degradation or anything else like that. But these cameras, and specifically I'm showing off the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark III here, they're incredibly well weather sealed. And they can take anything that you throw at them. And right now I have the EM1X here, right? And this is the toughest camera I've used. You're seeing a bunch of stuff here. I'm wondering if I included the image of it with sand.
I know some of our colleagues have frozen one before.
Oh, well, there you go. So what I did with this camera was when we were testing it before it was announced, I took it, I threw it in the sand, and then I asked them to hose it off, quite literally, like hose it off, and it survived, and it kept working, and that was awesome.
Was it sand or mud? I think you dropped it in the mud, didn't you?
I dropped it on sand. We were at like a dirt bike thing. Let me share another one with you guys. So Fujifilm, in terms of build quality. Paul, do you see that?
Yep.
So this is their X100V. And if a camera that's on their lower tier of the X series can take this, then their higher tier cameras can totally take this as well too. Fujifilm cameras I've used in like monsoon like rains, and they've kept working flawlessly, and they're great. So, there's an Olympus right there. Great. Sorry about that. In terms of build quality, like Fujifilm and Olympus are it for me. Sony, their cameras have gotten better and better over the years.
They've come a long way, certainly.
Yeah. Canon, Oh man, I threw that thing in snow. Remember when you, me, and Dan Havlick were like on a pizza tour, and I literally threw it down with a Sigma lens into the snow, and it kept working?
Yeah, that was a snowstorm too. It was so like it was snowing so heavily that it actually soaked through my thick jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Nikon as well too. Nikon can survive a lot. Panasonic can survive a lot. Leica, we've done similar tests with, and I think that they,
They don't say that some of them are weather sealed, but from our tests, they're pretty beefy.
yeah, I'm trying to remember if Leica actually says that like some of their stuff is IP rated, but it's probably not. Steve in the comments is saying my Canon 5D3 has been a tank, like Fuji build as well. Yep, completely agree with you. The 5D3 was always awesome when it comes to build quality. But so was the Nikon DSLRs, like the D810 and all that stuff. They were
850,
always very
yeah, the
great.
850, you could use that as a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's build quality. Now let's talk about autofocus. I think you and I are both basically the same thing. Say the same thing. It's Sony.
Yeah, Sony's when it comes to AF, Sony is king of the hill. They have been for quite some time. Um, Canon's come close, and Fuji's come close with their former updates within the past 2 years or so. Nikon has also drastically improved, but they were also in a very bad place when the Z6 and Z7 first launched. Chris and I actually did a totally unscientific, granted, but we did a test where we pitted the XT2 from Fuji against the Z7. We were at a concert in a dimly lit concert hall. And the XT2 at that point, what was it, 2 years old at that point?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. The XT2 ran circles around the Z7.
It wasn't even funny.
It was troubling how poorly the Z7 performed.
Yeah.
Granted, the camera had been out less than a month at that point. And, you know, to Nikon's credit, they've done a lot of work with their new firmware. Is that you pick up a Z7 now or a Z6, and it's a rather capable camera.
It's still not Canon
But
and
it's yeah, but
Fujifilm
they're
and
still playing catch
Sony.
up. They're
Yeah.
still playing catch up. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think King of the Hill. If you're shooting anything that's fast, like you're shooting pro sports, wildlife, motorsports, or even if you've got money to burn and you just want to take photos of your pets or your kids running around the backyard, pick up a Sony.
Yeah. I'm going to show you guys a couple images. Sharing the screen. These images were shot by both Paul and I using the Sony system. Oh, wait, no. These are... Do you see the lion or do you see Jeff?
Lion.
Okay. Animal AF autofocus is obviously a big one. I think I shot this. Yeah, I actually did. Again, Animal AF autofocus, and it gets the eyes. The cool thing about primates is that you can keep it on human, and in some cases it will actually think that, like, oh yeah, this is a human, so it'll take a photo of it. But Sony has always just been very reliable when it comes to autofocus. We've barely had very many problems. These are all the images that I have there. Let me show Canon then in that case. Canon's also pretty fantastic when it comes to this stuff. Do you see the photo, Jeff?
Yep.
Okay. Canon, in my tests, have always been very good and faster than Sony when it comes to low light stuff. But when it comes to tracking, I think Sony's just blowing it out of the water.
Yeah, these are actually for the color, but yeah.
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 But like Canon, I mean, always nails it. Like, it took them a while as well too. Let's be honest.
In the beginning, prior to firmware 1.3, the EOS R was not anywhere near on the like Sony's level.
Yeah, and then it just like took off after a while.
Yeah, they've since improved like drastically.
Yeah. Someone else was commenting. There's a famous Vietnam War photo made with a Nikon F where the rainwater was streaming across the film emulsion. Yes, Steve Weston saying that. Thank you. Gino is saying Sony tracks are robot eyes. Wow. Huh. I'm gonna have to try that. Maybe some Westworld type stuff. But yeah. Now our other testing parameter. Before I even get into image quality, I sort of just want to go through some of my personal notes that I have. So Fujifilm, I really like their ergonomics overall. Leica, same thing. I really like their ergonomics, but also the thing is, we're going to talk about this a little with image quality. The M series lenses on M bodies have this like pop, like a micro contrast that I haven't really been able to get with anything else, and I adore that about the system. Obviously it's very expensive, but I feel like once you have it, like you can't really go back from that look. Canon, I really like their lenses. Like they have the most lens innovation game, I think, right now, and then also the way they render skin tones. Sony, we talked about autofocus. Panasonic, I really like the fully touchscreen interface and like how easy it is to really navigate their system. Obviously Canon has that as well too, but Panasonic's the only other system that has that, really. Olympus, I really like the art filters and live comp. We're going to talk about that quite a bit, I feel, Paul.
Yep.
And then Pentax, all the cameras that have all the colors. I sort of want to get into this first, like, because it's just fun.
My Brett's not here. That's his.
Yeah, I know. Like,
yeah.
he's a Pentax fanboy, and like he uses Pentax right now. But that would have been so great for him. Yeah. So I was going through images from like old CESs and old other pieces that we've done. And let me see if I can bring this up and share it with you right now. Back into Zoom and share screen. Can you see this? You can?
Yep.
Okay. This wall is a wall of cameras, and look at how many different colors they are. It says Ricoh up there. That's when Ricoh had just bought Pentax, but Pentax, like their older DSLRs, like they had all these cool, crazy colors, and they were so fun. And then they would give you, like, for the press, they would give us like images that were obviously like composites put together like this, and they were fun. Like they were just nice to look at, and it was nice to know that you could get a camera that really matched your personality.
Yeah, there was a time when you saw a lot of like boutique looking cameras. Yeah, I miss those days.
Yeah.
You got like special limited edition ones.
So you want to talk about image quality, man?
Yeah, well, we kind of already dove into it when you showed some of the images that I shot with the Canon system.
Well, I mean, we showed those. We didn't really talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I'm of two minds here. I love the way the images look that I shoot. Like the ones I shoot on Canon, they look great. The thing is, like, people say all the time, right? Oh, like Canon colors. And yes, it's there. Colors. They're certainly Canon there. Colors. But you're such a troll.
I know I have. I really am.
The thing is, you need to, like, a lot of people, they don't take the time to learn the system. So if they switch to like Nikon, or if they switch to Sony, right? Like, sure, like sometimes if I'm shooting with one system, I switch over to Nikon. There's that Nikon green tint, and then, or Sony is, oh, the colors just aren't there.
But Sony also has that purple tint.
Yeah, but then I switched over to Capture One. The problem went away. Why is that? It's because the folks over at Capture One, to their credit, they have a whole team of color scientists. All they do is they study the way colors interact with one another. And they've given us a tool to really get the most out of what we can with each system. even like ever since I switched over, I haven't worried about Canon colors or Sony colors or whatever for a long time. Just once you know how to work with your files, it stops becoming an issue. And you can also actually create color profiles in your camera. Most people don't, but
I
if you
totally
want,
do.
I know you do, and I do, but most people they don't do that because they shoot and then they worry about it in post, right? But why would you not build a profile? And if you're gonna shoot the same way all the time, anyways, just use that profile. If you know that this a particular system looks, let's say for Nikon, it looks too green for your taste. Okay, then adjust the tone so that it's less green. Add a little bit of red tint from the get-go, so that you're starting with raw files that's doesn't have that problem anymore. So having said that, yes, Canon does have that color. But if you want to talk about like the best dynamic range and the best color rendition,
Sony.
yeah,
Sony,
well,
Nikon,
Sony,
Panasonic. They're all very good.
yeah, and Fuji, the GFX cameras. There's a lot of dynamic range there too. There's
Man, look at that
lot,
smile across your face when you talk about Fuji.
that GFX, man. It's the GFX cameras. They aren't perfect, but oof, those files are gorgeous. Some of my favorite images I shot on Fuji. And then also, speaking of like huge dynamic range and being able to capture a lot of color information, a little controversial, but like Phase 1 IQ backs, oof, 100 megapixel, and then the newest one has 150, and the tonalities and the dynamic range you get on those backs are ridiculous, way more than a normal person would need. But if you're shooting high-end commercial work and you can afford those cameras, good on you.
I mean, yeah, but also at the same time, like you can do most of what they need with a more affordable camera.
Well, that's why this is my daily driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, A7R4. I upgraded to that because for what I do, it gets me 95% of the way there without me having to drop $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in the system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about Fujifilm for a second. So, in terms of image quality, like Fujifilm just has this character that's gorgeous.
On
And
the X-Trans sensors cameras.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen?
Yep.
So these are some images that were shot recently. I think these were on the X100V. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, you shot those on that one. I shot it on another system.
On the XT4, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like the Acros rendition. And that was Provia right there. But like, I mean,
Acros.
how do you beat this black and white?
Acros, man. Ooh.
Yeah. And then you combine this level of image quality with the other features like the build quality, the ergonomics, the autofocus performance. Like, can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, although, a lot of what photographers love about the Fujifilm system is classic chrome and now classic negative.
Mm-hmm.
Because those looks are completely totally unique to Fujifilm, and you can't really get anything else like that. Like, the only system that I think really goes into looks that much besides Fujifilm would be Olympus.
Yeah, with their creative filters, the art filters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also thinking something too. The first company that actually went into making digital cameras, Kodak, since they're also a filmmaker, had they actually stuck to making and dedicating their resources to making digital cameras, they could have been doing what Fuji's doing now.
Well, they did it with their phone. That one phone that came out.
Again, I'm saying, had they actually gone into the digital game properly. Because no other, think of all the other digital camera manufacturers right now. Fuji is the only one that actually made film back in the analog days.
Fair. That's a solid point.
That's why they have this advantage that no one else has.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Canon has their film days, but they just made the camera. They didn't make the emotions. Same
Yeah.
thing with Nikon. You know, and Sony to a degree when they purchased Minolta. There's a huge history in analog there, but none of them were creating their own emotions at any point.
No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of emulsions, I'm going to bring up some Olympus images. Can you see this?
Yeah.
So Olympus has this like grainy black and white simulation. I shouldn't call it a simulation. They're called art filters. And it's gorgeous, but they also have all these other ones. Like there's this one that's designed to look like instant film, another one that's designed to look like pinhole stuff.
Yeah,
But
some of them are a little too creative for my taste, but for the most part, they're excellent.
okay, but here's the thing. Like people like they sit there and they hate on Olympus so much. But like because that's usually because of like the higher ISO output and because their dynamic range isn't as good as the rest. But if you
That's not the dynamic range thing. I don't think that argument holds true anymore. At least not from what I've seen.
at low ISOs, I think it does hold true.
I was able to get a lot of dynamic range out of the EM5 Mark III. So
Like Sony and Fujifilm level, no.
like 80% there.
Okay, yeah, but still, it's still not at the same level. But I mean, you can use Olympus for doing this, and it's awesome. Plus, you have the ability to do stuff like this with Live COmp.
Yeah, that's their killer app is Live COMP.
Yeah,
I
so
really wish it wasn't so darn cloudy that night when I shot this.
Paul, you want to talk about Live COmp and what it is?
Yeah, so Live COMP is basically a unique technology that Olympus has, where instead of what you traditionally would have to do, shooting long exposures, let's say you want to shoot star trails, right? You would have to basically shoot like 50 to like 300 separate exposure, and then you would have to combine it and stack it in post. What Olympus is doing through LiveComp, what LiveComp allows you to do rather, is that it's dynamically building the composite for you in camera using an additive process. So you basically set up your base exposure, and then from that point, the camera will intelligently add all the other elements that's in motion into the frame for you. So let's say, Chris, can you just pull back to the image of the star trails real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me bring that back up. But go ahead and talk in the meantime.
Yeah. So basically, once Chris pulls up the image, you'll see like I created, I framed up my shot. So I've got the two rocks there to kind of serve as a foreground. And then it leads you into the stars. Now, for our reviews, we don't edit it, we don't Photoshop the images at all. But like for myself, I would have actually removed that red trail you see. That was from the plane that was taking off. But what it did was, I believe this was maybe 20 minutes where you just let the camera run and it will add each individual shot into your final image, quote unquote, for you, so that you don't have to sit there in Photoshop after, you get home to actually stack each of the images. The camera's doing that for you, and you're actually getting a raw file that you can play with.
I was gonna say you get a raw, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge time saver. And like I don't know about you guys, but like last thing I want to do after like freezing my butt off shooting all night is to go home and wait and processing all those images, and then having to stack them and then clean stuff up.
And yeah, I'd rather stuff my face in a bowl of ramen instead.
Yeah.
After freezing my face off.
But it makes it so much easier that you actually will want to work with the files. Because what's going to end up happening sometimes is you shoot all the stuff, and then they sit on the hard drive because like other stuff comes up. You got to do, you've got a gig coming up, so paid work always comes first, right? So you end up not even looking at all those like hundreds of exposures until months later, and you forgot like what the scene was even supposed to look like. Whereas you're shooting stuff on LiveCom, you can see it right there as it's building up to you. And when you get to the point where you like it, you can just stop it. So it's not like you set, I'm going to set my bulb exposure to 2 hours, and then you have to let it run the whole 2 hours. You just get it to a point where, okay, that's enough. Like I'm getting circles already with the star trails. Okay, I'm just gonna stop it. Then you're good to go. That right there, it'll build the actual image you're seeing on the back of the screen. It will build that into a raw file for you.
Funny story about Live COmp. When we were in Costa Rica and I was shooting photos of the beach, I was trying to get the star trails as well too, because I'd never done it before. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh man, this is really cool. And the managing editor of Photofocus, Brian Eisler, he's just like, I'm just gonna go down there. You want to catch up with me later? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he's navigating through the beach with his phone using a flashlight, and the entire scene is dark, and then suddenly I see this dude like illuminating the entire beach, like with his flashlight.
Oh yeah, you could
as it's going through.
Yeah, so you could do some super creative light painting using Lycon. I think like you did an accidental light painting.
Yeah, I was just really trying to get like, oh, nothing else but the clouds, but then suddenly like this dude walks by. I'm like, okay, I guess.
I mean, that's one of those things, like with long exposure in general. It's kind of like fishing, right? You don't know what you get until you get it.
Yeah, exactly. So creating our perfect cameras, like you'd be a guy that would be more SLR, maybe Nikon style, but you'd want to keep the top.
Well, a few more things too. So you touched on, pun intended, you touched on touchscreens earlier. You said that you like Panasonics and you also like Canons, right?
Yeah.
I do like Canons. Panasonic's okay for me, anyways. But where am I? Like the one system that I will. You can say anything else about their cameras, but Hasselblad, they have the bar none best touchscreen interface of all modern digital cameras that's available on the market.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It is the most well thought out touchscreen. It just works. Everything's intuitive. You could can that Hasselblad to someone that's never shot with a digital camera before, and they may not know how to work all the buttons and dials, but they'll know how to get their way around the touchscreen. It's that well thought out when they designed it.
Yeah, I feel like they.
I wish they would license that to other people, because if I could use that interface on other cameras, I would do that in a heartbeat. Like, let me like download that as like an added feature or something. And that's another thing. I think all cameras, if they don't give us a lot of these value added features, so to speak, at least let us have the ability to add them through like an app store or something. Sony did this years ago, but for whatever their reason, they took them out of their cameras, and it's been a constant frustration.
Don't get me started about this.
Yeah, because they actually, for what it's worth, they had some pretty cool features that you could add to your cameras.
Touchless shutter, multiple exposure.
Yep. Like why? So why do you take it away, and then now we just don't even have access to it? That's the one thing that I hate, is not being able to do multiple exposures in camera on my Sonys.
Well, I just do them on my Fujifilm or my Canons instead.
Yeah, no, like I'm gonna have to use a different system if I want to do that in Canon. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm forced to fire up Photoshop. So and it kind of takes away from that, I feel.
All right, so
creating it in person. Yeah.
So let's wrap this up then. Ergonomics for me, or the best, the dream camera for me, would be something like Leica or Fujifilm's Ergonomics. Olympus's build quality, with, I would think, a cross between like Canon and Fujifilm's image quality with Sony's autofocus. What would yours be?
Mine's pretty similar, except obviously the shape would be a little bit different. I could do like a hybrid rangefinder SLR, to be honest. Maybe kind of like how Fuji's done the GFX, where if you don't need it, you could take the viewfinder off, and then you've got something that's almost like a standard rangefinder body, right? Build quality. Obviously, give me that weather sealing that Fuji and Olympus are known for. Uh, I think for the most part, we're in agreement on all the other stuff. Sony AF, the image quality, mainly thanks to the lenses from Canon. You know,
I just
yeah,
wish they weren't so ginormous.
that's a physics problem when you got f1.2 lenses and your mount's a certain size.
Yeah.
The front element it's got to be large enough to compensate for that. Yeah, those 85 mils, man. Oof, love those lenses.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't seem like we have any other comments, does it?
I don't think so. None.
Yeah.
No additional ones.
Let me see if I can check Facebook very quickly. Someone saying they saw Irene Rudnick discussing this, put hand over camera. Another person saying, first thing I learned, hold your breath. Yes. Another person saying, cool topic. Yeah, that's really about it, man.
Cool.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Paul, for, always doing the show. We will be back next week, and eventually I will be in a bigger and a cleaner office. Apologize for that. Once again, we're wishing Brett, our colleague, well. He is sick right now. Strep throat, I believe. We ask that you guys keep him in your thoughts. Yeah, that's it, man.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
Host.
Thanks,
Good night.
Take care.